Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Good morning. Are we good? Okay, thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the board meeting of the Structural Pest Control Board. This meeting is being held on August 26, 2024, and the time is 9:01. We will now establish a quorum. Sophia, can you please conduct a roll call?
Yes. President Anderson,
Here.
Board Member Dr. Bindal,
Here.
Board Member Paxson,
Here.
Board Member Tingen,
Here.
Board Member Mendenhall.
Here.
Vice President Finley is absent. We have 5 members present and we have a quorum.
Thank you. With the quorum established, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will all join me. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this point in time, I'd like to open it up for public comment for items that are not on the agenda for those here in public and online. Going once. Yeah. Oh, okay. Perfect. Okay. Great. Well, hearing none, we'll move on. Agenda items 4 through 7 are petitions for reinstatement. We will be focusing on agenda items number 6 and 7, being that we have other petitioners that are not here today. So with that said, for the purpose of these hearings, are for the board to consider these petitions for reinstatement. The first on the agenda, I will turn over to the administrative law judge to begin and run us through those hearings.
All right, our first hearing is the Caleb Goins-Jacobs hearing. And so if Mr. Goins could please come up to the table, we will get started. All right, and is it Goins-Jacobs?
Yes, it's Goins-Jacobs.
All right, and I see you have a folder in front of you. Are those the exhibits?
Yes, I believe so.
They are. All right, Ms. Lee, yes? All right, in just a moment, we are going to go on the record. We have a court reporter here. He's going to be taking down everything that's being said at the hearing. So I will announce the case, and then I will explain how the hearing will proceed this morning. And then if anyone has any questions, you can ask me at that time. All right? Yes? Okay. On the record? Yes. All right, good morning. We are on the record. It is August 26, 2024, and the matter of the petition for reinstatement by Caleb Goins-Jacobs. This matter is being heard before the Structural Pest Control Board, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California. This is Office of Administrative Hearings, case number 2024-060-934. Structural Pest Control Board hearing, case number 2019-060. My name is Marcy Larson. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, presiding over the matter this morning. We are here at the date, time, and location of the notice of hearing. I will start with having the board members identify themselves for the record, starting to my left with the board president.
Yesenia Anderson.
Ankur Bindal.
Scott Mendenhall.
John Tingen.
Mark Paxson.
We do have a quorum present. And may I please take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the board, Deputy Attorney General Stephanie Lee on behalf of the Attorney General's office for these petitions.
All right, and Mr. Goins-Jacobs, you are representing yourself this morning, correct?
Yes.
And you understand you could have had an attorney represent you at your own expense?
Yes.
And you're proceeding on your own behalf?
Yes.
All right. As I said before we went on the record, I was going to explain how the hearing will proceed this morning. We are here today because Mr. Goins-Jacobs, you filed a petition for reinstatement of your license. The board members are concerned primarily with the rehabilitation that you've undertaken since the discipline of your license. The way the hearing will proceed is that Ms. Lee, who represents the people, will provide a brief overview of the history of the discipline of your license for the board members. She will then present the exhibits in this matter, and I confirmed before we went on the hearing that you have a copy of those exhibits before you. As to those exhibits, I will ask if you have any objections to any of the exhibits that have been included. I understand that probably most of those exhibits are things that you've provided, but I will still confirm that you have no objections to those exhibits. After Ms. Lee provides the board with an overview of the discipline in this matter, you will then be able to present your case. You have the burden of proving to the board that your license should be reinstated. So you will have an opportunity to testify. I will swear you in, and you can provide the board members with any information you believe is important to highlight. You can identify any particular information in your petition package that you would like the board members to focus on. And then after you provide testimony, I will ask Ms. Lee if she has any questions for you. And then after Ms. Lee is done, I will then ask the board members, each of them, if they have any questions for you as well. I make sure that if there's anything you want to add after those questions, you have an opportunity to do so. After all of the evidence is presented in this case, the matter will be submitted to the board, and the board will be going into closed session today. So you will not receive a decision today. You will receive a written decision sometime in the future after the board has deliberated. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, during this proceeding, I cannot give any legal advice, but if anybody has any questions about the procedures, please let me know, and if I can answer the question, I will. All right, with that, Ms. Lee, if you would please give the board a brief overview of the history of discipline in this matter.
Yes, Your Honor. The matter before the board is a petition for reinstatement of Mr. Goins-Jacobs's applicator's license 59665. The license was originally issued in April 27, 2017 in branches 2 and 3. The board filed an accusation in 2019 in case number 2019-60. The basis for that accusation was substantially related convictions. Specifically, in May of 2018, Mr. Goins-Jacobs suffered 2 felony convictions in Riverside County. Case number RIF as in Frank 1703838. Conviction number 1 was Penal Code Section 459 in the first degree. This is residential burglary. And conviction number 2 was Penal Code Section 25850, again a felony. This was carrying a loaded firearm that was not registered. For these convictions, Mr. Goins-Jacobs was placed on formal probation for 3 years. He served a year in county jail, and among other terms of probation, he was ordered to pay restitution to the victim. This was stemming from a 2016 arrest where Mr. Goins-Jacobs, at the time 19 years old, was caught fleeing the scene of a residential burglary in progress with 3 other co-defendants. There were a number of recovered stolen items, including a pistol that was wrapped in Mr. Goins-Jacobs' sock. As a result of the board's accusation for these convictions, Mr. Goins-Jacobs had a default decision and order effective June 29, 2019. So that license was effectively revoked, and there is outstanding cost recovery from that case of $1,210. If his license is reinstated, that should be a condition precedent to reinstatement. There is an additional criminal case for the board's consideration today, which occurred after the board's accusation case was filed. So the board will hear information regarding a second criminal case conviction that occurred in May 10th, 2019. again in Riverside County, case number RIF as in Frank 1805320. This was for a conviction of Penal Code Section 25850, Subdivision C, 6, a felony, as well as the admission of an allegation pursuant to Penal Code Section 186.22, Subdivision B, 1A. So the conviction was again for carrying a loaded firearm, or being in possession, of a loaded firearm that was not registered. And the allegation was a gang enhancement, that the criminal activity was done in support of or in the benefit of a criminal street gang. For this second criminal case, Mr. Goins Jacobs was sentenced to a total of 3 years and 4 months in state prison. This stemmed from a December 2018 criminal incident where Mr. Goins Jacobs was found in the back passenger seat of a vehicle, again with 3 other gentlemen. There was a loaded firearm in the car, and the police officers at the time had noted a number of tattoos on Mr. Goins Jacobs that they believed were affiliated with the Edgemont Criminals street gang in Moreno Valley. And so the board, we were going to ask the board to consider that additional case, which was not a part of the original accusation.
Ms. Lee, if you would please address the exhibits, and if you could address, as you go through the exhibit numbers, give also the AGO numbers.
Certainly.
For where the exhibits start and end. And then Mr. Goins Jacobs, if you could follow along as Ms. Lee goes through those exhibits, she'll identify each of the exhibits, and then after she's done identifying all the exhibits, I will ask you if you have any objections to any of them. All right?
Okay.
All right, Ms. Lee,
Thank
proceed.
you. So this is collectively being marked as Exhibit 1. I'm going to start with AGO, page 1. I will refer to the page number simply as the page numbers thereafter. Pages 1 and 2 are the board's letter regarding the reinstatement hearing. Page 3 is Mr. Goins Jacobs' confirmation request that was signed. Page 4 through 10 is correspondence from the board relating to the reinstatement hearing. Pages 11 and 12 are Mr. Goins Jacobs' petition for reinstatement, which he has signed, dated October 10, 2023. Page 13 is his request for the live scan, which he has completed. Starting on page 15, he has a number of character reference letters. Page 17 and 18 are Mr. Goins Jacobs' personal statement. Page 19 through 20 is a letter from his grandmother, Ruthie Goins, Ruthie, last name Goins. Pages 21 to 22 is a letter from his grandfather, Brian Goins Sr. And starting on page 23 through 24, Mr. Goins Jacobs has submitted a certificate of completion for a 16-hour anger management class. 25 through 36 is the board's default decision and order, which led to the revocation of the license. Starting with AGO 37 to 45 is the accusation. 47 through 48 is a memo from the board relating to the outstanding cost recovery of $1,210. And then starting with AGO 50 all the way through so 51 is his license, certified license history regarding his applicator's license. And then finally, starting with AGO 53 all the way through 73. These are the certified court records relating to that second criminal case that was not a part of the board's accusation case. So it's the Riverside County Court number, case number ending in 5320.
All right, Mr. Goins-Jacobs, do you have any objection to the documents that make up Exhibit 1?
No.
Exhibit 1 is admitted. All right, Ms. Lee, anything further?
Nothing subject to examination of Mr. Goins-Jacobs. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Goins-Jacobs, now is your opportunity to present your case. So the first thing I'm going to do is swear you in. If you would please stand. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Yes.
Have a seat. And if you would please state and spell your name.
Caleb Goins Jacobs, CALEB GOINS JACOBS.
As I explained before, this is now your opportunity to provide the board members with any information that you believe is important to share with regards to the rehabilitation efforts you've undertaken since the discipline of your license and your convictions. Just remember to keep your voice up and speak a little more slowly than you would in a conversation, and that makes sure that our court reporter can get everything down that you're saying and that we can all hear you as well. All right?
Okay.
All right, you may begin.
So since I've been released from prison, I have just been working on myself as while I was incarcerated. I have kids that I need to work for. I actually did a good job working for my family's company while being out on bond. I did serve a lot of time working with the pest control company, and this is really all I know. You know, my grandfather, they own companies that I worked for, so I really just would like to get back in the field. For the most part, I've just been staying out the way since then. I have denounced myself from any type of gang or anything. I took my anger management classes. I haven't had any convictions since 2019. And I've just been on the right path and just staying focused and just trying to do the best I can. So we're just asking if I could get my license back so I could get my career back and just work and get back in the field for my kids, my family. So that's all I really have to say.
So, Mr. Goins-Jacobs, as I explained, I'm going to ask Ms. Lee if she has questions for you, and then the board members may have questions.
Yeah.
That may remind you of additional things you want to add, and as I mentioned, I'll make sure that you have another opportunity to add anything else in addition. All right?
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Lee.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Goins-Jacobs.
Good morning.
So a big part of today's hearing is about you earning the confidence of the board. So that starts with your honest testimony today. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So how old are you currently?
27.
And at the time of your first criminal incident and conviction, you were around 19 and 20?
As an adult, yes.
Okay. And then at the time of your second criminal case, how old were you?
It was 2018, so I was about 23, 22.
Around 22, 23. Are you currently, what is your marital status?
I'm currently married.
How long have you been married?
Since 2016.
And you mentioned that you have children, 4 children?
Yes, now I have 5.
Okay. And currently, who provides financial support for the 5 children?
My wife?
Do they all live with you?
No,
Go ahead.
just 3 of them.
3 of the children live with you?
Yeah.
And then 2 of your children live with their
I
mother?
have their mother.
And then who provides financial support for the 3 children that live with you?
Their mother.
Do they have different mothers?
No.
Okay,
The three that live with me are the same mother, and then
got it.
I have two.
And what is the age range of your children?
Between 1 and 7.
And where do you currently live? I don't mean your
In
specific address, just like the
Orange
city.
County, Tustin,
Tustin. How long have you lived in Tustin?
for about 3 years.
And where does your wife live?
And Marino, Riverside.
In
I'm
Moreno.
actually going through a divorce right now with her.
Okay. So your children's mother lives in Moreno Valley?
And well, my wife she lives in Riverside,
Okay.
and my current fiance actually lives in Tustin with me.
Got it. So you mentioned that you work when you were licensed with the board, you worked for your family business
Yes,
that was started by your grandfather.
yes,
Is that Brian Goins Sr.?
yes.
And what is the name of the company or companies?
I work for Vacate Pest Control and Final Exterminators.
I'm sorry, the second one?
Final Exterminators?
Final?
Yes.
Was the first one Vacate
Vacate Pest.
Pest Control? And how long has your family owned these businesses?
I'm not too sure. I know before, since I was born, or before.
Okay. And who else in your family works for that business?
My uncle's cousins.
And when you were working for the business, were you working as just as an applicator, or did you have any other roles?
Yes, just applicator.
How long had you worked for the business before your license was revoked?
Since 2017 to about 19.
And what are your plans if the board were to reinstate your license?
I would go back and work with my grandfather.
And is he willing to offer you a position?
Yes.
Is your grandfather in court with you today?
Yes, he is.
Is that the gentleman who's seated in the blue shirt?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have anybody else who's supporting you at the hearing today?
No, I do not.
So I want to ask you a little bit about, let's start with your continuing education. Since your license was revoked, have you participated in any continuing education or trainings related to the field?
No, I have not.
And then would you be willing to take a examination for the applicator's license if your license were to be reinstated?
Yes.
Do you have any plans to further your employment past the applicator's license?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I would just like to make a career out of this and just move up and take the test and go further.
Do you have plans in the future to apply for other types of licenses with the board?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I do plan on that after I work for a while and study a little more and get back used to working the field. So once I do that, then I will definitely try to move up.
Either as a field representative or an operator?
Yes.
And do you have an eventual goal to oversee the company after your grandfather retires, or is there somebody else who would be doing that?
Yes, he does plan on training me to eventually be able to take over.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you now a little bit about your criminal history. The conviction, so I'm going to talk about your first case first. The conviction from 2018 regarding the residential burglary and the loaded gun. Did you have that conviction expunged?
No.
Have you ever applied to get those convictions expunged from your first case?
No. Just based on that, I had another case after, so I was trying to wait until the time limit.
What is the time limit for you?
I think it's like 5 years.
Okay. And what about your second criminal case? Have those convictions been expunged?
No, they haven't.
Have you attempted to get those expunged?
No, not yet.
Okay. And do you have any plans to petition to have both of your criminal cases expunged in the future?
Yes, I do.
When do you plan to do that?
I plan on doing that whenever the time allows me to. I believe it's a certain amount of time that I have to wait.
Okay. So now let's talk about your second criminal case. You picked that one up while you were on felony probation. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And it says here on your petition, I was on probation. So I'm looking at page 11. I was on probation when I was arrested for being over at a friend's house celebrating his birthday. And I think, did you get a little bit of help writing the handwriting on this petition?
Yes.
Is this from your grandmother?
Yes.
Okay. Your grandmother writes the same thing. She writes that my grandson, so this is page 20 from Ruthie Goins, my grandson has progressed to be a good citizen after his arrest. He was going to his friend's house for his friend's birthday party. He was arrested. This was a decision based strictly on association. Your grandmother was not there during the second incident, right?
No, she was not.
Okay, so I want you to answer these questions honestly to the best of your ability. During the time that you picked up the second case, were you in any kind of criminal street gang, including the Edgemont criminals or otherwise?
Yes, I was.
Okay, which criminal gang were you in?
Edgemont.
And then from what age to what age?
To about 15 to 23.
And then when did you, I think you mentioned earlier that you denounced your association with that gang. When did you do that?
When I got to prison, a little after.
And then since then, have you had any associations with the Edgemont criminals or any other street gang?
No.
In both cases that you had a co-defendant, James McLaughlin.
Yes.
That's McLaughlin.
Yes.
And at the time, he and you were friends as a part of the same gang.
Yes, we were.
And since you have denounced yourself from the gang, do you associate with Mr. McLaughlin at all?
No, we're no longer friends.
And when did you stop the relationship or end the relationship with him?
Since I've pretty much been released.
No contact?
No, we no longer speak.
What about the other two gentlemen that you were in the car with in the second case? Mr. Unger, James Unger?
Yes, no. They were not a part of any gang.
Okay. And do you associate with Mr. James Unger today?
No.
When did you end? Did you have a relationship with Mr. Unger?
Yes, I did.
And when did that end?
At court, we stopped talking.
During the court proceedings of your second case?
Yes, during like our sentencing. I have not spoken to him.
And then you also there was a fourth gentleman, Kenyon?
Kenyon, yes.
Kenyon, what was his last name? Do you know his last name?
Harris.
Did you have a friendship or relationship with that gentleman?
Yes, I did.
And when did you end that relationship?
Yes,
When did you end that relationship?
that ended at court as well.
So the court proceedings for that same second criminal case.
Yes,
Okay. And that criminal case was, you were not arrested for being at a friend's house. You were arrested for being in the car of a friend, and there was a loaded gun in the car. Is that
yes,
more,
that
is
is
more accurate?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay. And you were on felony probation at the time,
Yes, I was.
and Mr. McLaughlin was also on felony probation for that same residential burglary case, that the first case?
Yes,
Okay. And that gun was implicated to all four of you because all four of you had knowledge of the gun, regardless of who actually brought
yes,
it. Is that right?
yes, that is correct.
Okay. And then you admitted to that gang allegation because at least at the time that you were in the car, you were still with the Edgemont criminals.
Yes,
How much of the 3 years, 4 month sentence did you serve?
I did about 16 months.
And then when were you released from prison?
July 15th, 2020.
Are you currently still on parole?
No,
When did your parole finish?
I believe almost a little over a year or two, going on two. I could be wrong.
And was there a reason why your parole was terminated early? For example, did the state give you some sort of benefit for good behavior or anything like that?
Good behavior.
I'm sorry, I have to finish. We can't overlap our question and answers.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So your parole was terminated early for good behavior,
Yes, good behavior.
and then the 16 months that you served out of the 3 years, 4 months, was that sentence reduced also for a reason?
Excuse me.
So the judge sentenced you to 3 years and 4 months.
Oh,
And then, but you served 1 year and 4 months. So was there any particular reason why your sentence was shortened?
it was for halftime.
And then since, during the time that you were on parole, did you have any parole violations?
No,
There was a restitution term from your first case, the residential burglary. Do you recall that?
yes, I do.
Do you recall if you've satisfied that restitution condition to the satisfaction of the court?
I have no knowledge of that.
Did the court at some point terminate your probation?
Yes,
And at the time that your probation ended, did the court order you to pay any amount of dollars to the victim in that residential burg case?
no. When they terminated my probation or parole, I just got a letter of discharge.
Okay. So there's no outstanding restitution.
Not that I know of.
Okay. And besides the criminal cases we've talked about, do you have any other convictions that the board would not be aware of?
No,
And do you have any current criminal charges or any other arrests that the board would not be aware of?
no,
Would you agree that the criminal incidents that you were involved in were in violation of the law?
yes,
And would you agree that those your acts in those two cases could have caused the public harm?
yes,
And you accept responsibility for your actions from those past two cases?
yes.
How can the board, at the time that you picked up these cases, you were licensed with the board, how can you assure the board that you will not engage in criminal activity in the future or pick up a criminal case in the future?
Well, at the time that I did catch the case, I was working. I didn't have any incidents during work. My customers, they liked me. I did a good job, but I was kind of halfway in, halfway out, so I didn't really fully dedicate myself to my career and my life. So now, moving forward, since denouncing myself and working on myself, I will not be halfway in, halfway out. I'm all in for my family, for my kids, and just for myself, really. Um, I learned my lesson. I don't want to make that mistake again, and I won't.
So you've moved out of Moreno Valley. That's where these incidents occurred, right?
Yes.
And you don't associate with the same young friends that you used to. Is that right?
No,
You don't. You do not.
I do not.
Okay. And you've at the time that you picked up these cases, did you have children?
Yes, I had two.
Okay. Is it fair to say that your responsibility for your children has grown since then, since you've had more children?
Yes, a lot.
Are there, besides what you've already talked about, are there any other life changes that you've made since being released from prison?
Other any life changes? Just like as far as going to church and just um, staying away from areas I shouldn't be in and staying away from people I shouldn't associate with. That's about it.
Uh, do you have any activities that you enjoy doing in your free time?
Um, Play basketball, work out.
And then you mentioned going to church. Do you do any community service or activities through your church, or have you done that in the past?
Not too much. Like I wouldn't consider it like community service or anything, but I do participate in activities with the church and stuff like that.
Okay. Let's go over your supporting documentation really quickly. So if you can turn your page to 17. So 17 and 18, this was a letter that you have prepared for the board members to read. And is there, you mentioned that you've given yourself to spiritual awareness for God by studying in Bible class. Is that some of the activities that you were talking about just now?
Yes.
Okay. And page 20, your letter from your grandmother.
Yes.
Do you have the support of your grandmother today? I don't mean financial support. I mean like emotional family support.
Yes.
Okay. And does she also work for the family business?
I believe she is a part of it. I wouldn't necessarily say too much work.
Okay. What position does she have?
I really have no idea.
Okay. And then the other letter that you had submitted was from your grandfather, page 22, Mr. Brian Goins. And does he have your full support if your license is reinstated by the board?
Yes.
Or do you have his full support? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. And are there any other family members that you can rely on for support in case in the future, if you have questions about the business and if your grandfather is retired or not around? Is there somebody that you can turn to?
Yes. My uncle. I have three other uncles that own companies in pest control.
What are their names?
Ryan Goins, Joshua Goins, and Dwayne Neely.
You spell his last name.
I'm gonna spell it the best way I can. So
It's N.
Neely.
And is Dwayne Dwayne?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if the board were to reinstate your license and order conditions like paying that outstanding cost recovery on a payment plan, is that something that you'd be able and willing to do?
Yes, I'm willing to do whatever.
Okay. And is there any? Oh, let me ask you about your certificate of anger management completion. Was this court ordered anger management?
No, it was not court ordered.
Okay. And was it voluntary? You did this on your own?
Yes, just as far as just to show, like my parole that I was working on things.
Okay. So you submitted this to your parole officer?
Yes, as well.
Was there anything that you got out of it? Was there any benefit from taking this course?
Just really helping me focus on controlling my emotions, my breathing, just different things such as that.
Okay. And is there anything that we have not covered that you've thought of since we've talked that you'd like to tell the board about in support of you receiving your license?
No.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask our board members now if they have any questions, starting to my left with our president.
Thank you, Mr. Goins Jacobs. Thank you for being here today and for your testimony. I know this can be difficult, so I appreciate your transparent testimony. To start, I'd like to understand, since your last conviction, can you talk to me a little bit about, and you spoke to this a bit earlier in terms of your family being a big motivating factor, but what has changed since your last conviction? Has there, was there something in particular that made you make that shift in your mindset? Was there a set of circumstances? Can you speak a little bit further about that?
So while I was incarcerated, there was this person that I ran across, and he was doing life. So he told me when I get out, basically he wished he had the opportunity that I had. So that really touched me. So from that moment, I knew that that's not what I wanted for myself or for my family. So I went for it. That really motivated me to do what I needed to do. But I didn't want to end up like that.
Great, thank you. And you mentioned in your letter that there were other jobs that you had considered as well. Did you have difficulty in getting those jobs because of your convictions, or was there anything else that stopped you?
Yes, some difficulty because of conviction. Yeah.
And was there other reasons why?
No.
It's mainly that. Okay. And then I did note that you have recommendations from your family, which, I think it's commendable. And I think I'm very encouraged by the fact that you have family members that support you and are here for you today and on an everyday basis. I do see that your community engagement is a little bit limited. Is there something that has stopped you from perhaps doing other things within the community or to just show your progress that you are a responsible citizen?
No, nothing has really stopped me.
I also wanted to ask a clarifying question. The burglary in particular, was that something that happened at a residence that you service, like during your job, or was that just another home?
That actually happened in 2016. Mm-hmm. So I actually got licensed after that. I've just got convicted in 2018.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying. And then as you talk about your distancing yourself from the gang and gang activity, have you, so you you mentioned denouncing the gang, but what does that look like? What did you do in terms of really trying to separate yourself from that gang and from, any affiliation with them?
I moved away, no contact, and I told them first. You tell them first, and then there's no contact. I move away, and I just pretty much stay away. I don't look back. I don't go to those areas. I don't hang out, and that's pretty much it.
Have you looked into things like tattoo removal or anything like that in terms of your tattoos that might look like as if you're still affiliated?
Yes, most definitely. I've thought about it, but I've not yet looked into it.
And then my last question is, do you currently own a firearm?
No.
That's all the questions I have. So I'll turn it over to our next board member.
No questions.
And to my right.
No questions. No questions.
I have a few. Because I didn't write it down, I'll ask this one first. Is your grandfather going to testify on your behalf?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I just want to make sure, and I'm not really sure it's relevant, but you have a wife and you have 2 kids with your wife, but you're in the process of getting a divorce, and she lives up in Riverside, Moreno Valley.
Yes.
And then you're currently living with your fiance, and you have 3 kids with her.
Yes.
When you spend time with the 2 kids with your wife, where do you?
I'm sorry. I have 1 kid with her.
Oh, okay. So the 3 kids that currently you live with, those are.
I have 3 baby mothers. So
Okay.
one of my kids are in Riverside with my wife, and then I have another baby mother in Fontana, and then I have another baby mom, which is my fiance that
Okay. And how
currently
many kids live with you currently?
3.
Okay. And the 2 kids with your wife who still lives in the Moreno Valley area, where do you spend time with them when you
I
spend
just
time?
have one.
One with her.
One
Okay.
with her. Sorry.
Okay. So that the child you share with your wife who still lives in the Moreno Valley area, when you spend time with that child, where does that happen?
He actually comes to my house.
Okay. So you don't go to Moreno Valley or?
Yes, I actually do go to Moreno Valley because my grandparents still live out
Okay.
there and my family does, but it's just certain. I just don't go to certain areas.
Got it. Okay. I just wanted to try to get that in my head. Could you work for one of your family's companies in a non-licensed position?
Yeah, so yeah, I would hire me. Yeah.
Okay. Do you understand? A residential burglary is, I think, from this board's perspective, a particularly relevant crime because.
So I just want to remind the board members, you're limited to questions. So no statements.
It's going to be a question.
Okay,
I just want to preface the question with.
That's fine. Just to be mindful of that.
Okay, thank you. Do you understand why that crime in particular would be serious for this board and the industry that you want to return to?
Yes.
Can you explain that to me?
I understand that I'm in a lot of personal spaces, because I do be in people's houses and different. But actually, I caught that case in 2016. I got licensed in 2017, I believe, and I worked for my family's company, and my route was actually the Riverside County route. So I serviced sheriff stations, jails, fire stations. I did everything. So I never had any incidents, any complaints anywhere I went. So I've pretty much proven that I'm trustworthy in that area.
I don't think I have anything else. Thank you, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions from the board? All right, any more questions, Ms. Lee?
Thank you.
Anything else you would like to add?
No, thank you.
All right, you indicated that your grandfather is going to testify on your behalf,
Yes.
and that's Mr. Goins in the back, yes? All right, you may come up and have a seat next to your grandson. Actually, before you do that, before you sit, I will swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Have a seat, please. And please state and spell your name.
Brian D. Goins Sr., B-R-I-A-N, D-O-U-G-L-A-S, Goins, G-O-I-N-S, Sr.
All right, Mr. Goins, and I think your microphone is on. Yes, we can hear you. All right. So this is just your opportunity to provide any information to the board that you think is important for them to hear
Right.
concerning your grandson.
Okay.
All right. And then after you're done with your testimony, I'll ask Ms. Lee if she has any questions for you. And I'll also ask the board members if they have questions for you as
Sure.
well. All right, you may begin.
Well, I appreciate this opportunity to come. I've had the privilege of being an operator for over 40 years. I go way back when the test was 8 hours long. You had to pass all positions at 70%, miss one, go back. Took it 4 times. My wife took it 7 times. So I'm really familiar with the department. It's been a blessing to me over the years. I've been able to raise my family. He's one of 20 grandchildren, and he has 5 of my 16 great-grandchildren. And then I have 8 kids, 4 girls, 4 boys. I know what it's like to be in his position because 40-some years ago, I had a violation of exterminating without a license. And so I made an appeal. The board said okay. And so for 40 years, it made a difference in my life. I was able to hand it to my family. We have 7 companies in our family, and I've helped a number of other people to get licensed over the years. So it's been a real privilege for me. I've tried to retire. I've been a pastor for the last 40-some years, and I was doing full-time ministry. So I turned to vacate in 2020 over to my son Joshua. That was the company. And so, I still had a license. My wife was an operator. And 2017, my wife said, open a company. I want him to work. This is her first grandbaby. I said, okay. So we started the company. He was working with me, got in trouble. And so I kept it going, and it grew. And so I've been waiting to pass it on. He's one of my 20 grandkids that finally stepped up to the plate. So at this point, I'm prepared. If the board will reinstate him, I'm prepared to teach him, train him, school him, and take him as far as he can go. I don't know anything, any job. I have a PhD in counseling, a master's in theology, but I don't know of anything that has helped my life as Structural Pest Control Board. This has afforded me a lifestyle that I never could have imagined anywhere else. And I want to pass that on to him. I have other grandkids that are coming. I have other children. So, pest control is in our blood. And so it's been a good thing for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Lee, any questions for Mr. Goins?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Goins.
Yeah.
So he's the oldest of your 20 grandchildren,
He's the second oldest.
and any other grandchildren who are in the industry with you?
No, just that.
Besides your wife asking you to open a company, was there anything that you personally saw in Mr. Goins Jacobs that you thought would be suitable for working in the business and eventually running a pest control business?
Yeah, he actually first worked for my son, Vacate Pest Control, which is a company I gave to him back in 2000. And so at that point, my wife, I've been married 50 years. So she said, I want my grandson to be in the business because he was working with it. And so at that point, I said, okay, well, we'll start a new company. And it was started with him in mind. And so that's kind of where we got at right now.
Did he ask to work when he first started? Did your grandson ask to work for you, or did you ask him, do you want to work in this business?
Well, he worked for my son,
Right.
Joshua, and I kind of wanted to retire, and my wife does not want me to retire. She said somebody's going to benefit from this business until, and so I said, okay, well, she said he's the next in line. I said, okay.
Okay.
So, you know.
Are there any? You mentioned some of his personal attributes. You thought he will only excel if given another chance. Are there any personal attributes that you see in him that maybe the board members may not know about him?
He's a leader.
Okay.
He's not. He's soft-spoken, but he's smart, and he has leadership capabilities. People are following. And so in business at this point in time, he's very good to my customers. They loved him. You know, where's your grandson? Where's your grandson? Even to this day, I go to customers. Where's your, you know? And so, given his personality, his people skills, and dealing with customers, I never had any problems out of him. He always did the job. Text a little bit too much, but that's young people. But other than that, you know, he's very good with people, good personality. So just working with him in terms of progressing, you know, I'm in a position to. He already has the hours to qualify to take a operator's exam, but you know, we need to do field rep, and so given that, you know, whatever, you know, taking him forward.
Do any of the family businesses do residential? Do any of the businesses do residential?
Yeah, all of them do residential.
And if Mr. Goins Jacobs were to have his license reinstated, what is your plan with him regarding picking commercial versus residential places to spray?
I haven't differentiated that.
Okay.
You know, I mean, he's going to be in business. He's going to be in business.
So, do you have other applicators in your business?
No,
It would just be him?
just right now, yeah, he's my focus.
What is the name of the business that he would be working for?
Say it again.
What is the name of the business that he would?
Final Exterminators.
Okay. And currently, that company has one operator. Your wife?
No, me.
Oh, you.
I'm the operator.
Okay. And currently, no other applicators.
No.
I see.
I've had employees, but no.
Got it. Does it? So he would be doing both residential, commercial, whatever the work is.
Right.
Does it? Does it concern you at all that Mr. Goins Jacobs has this residential burglary in his past, and how that might affect either the consumers that you're working with, or what you think about your level of trust in him if he's going into a house?
I think, you know, when we evaluate people in general, they evolve. And age, experience, marriage, children, all of that makes a difference. So when we focus on a person's future based on what their past has been, then, you know, you're going to disqualify everybody. At this point in time, he's demonstrated that he's been rehabilitated. He spends time with me. I trust him with my back. So
Okay, so you don't have any concerns with
none
him
at all.
entering other residences?
None at all.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Hold on 1 minute. I have hearing aids and I've got an amplifier. Somebody just texted me. Let me turn my amplifier back on. Okay.
Yes, ready?
I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
All
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Goins. I'm
Goins.
now going to ask our board members if they have any questions, starting with our president to the left.
Good morning, Mr. Goins. Thank
Yes,
you
ma'am.
so much for being here today and for your testimony.
Sure.
My only question is really, and you touched on this a little bit, but I'd love for you to elaborate on what in particular makes Mr. Goins Jacobs a different person today than you saw perhaps a few years ago when he was engaged in some of this criminal activity.
I raised him, and without going into a lot of detail, you know, heredity goes a long ways. His dad had issues. I actually went to court. I'm Riverside County Sheriff Chaplain for the last 27 years. So I go out on homicide, suicide, unintended deaths. I've gone to court for people. I've gotten them off. I've done testimonies on behalf of young people in particular. His dad in particular, I went to court and got some time off for him. But I raised him. I went to school, cooked, disciplined him, all of that. And somehow or another things changed, no matter what I did. And there are times, you know, when he was coming up, I had to, you know, almost jack him up. And so his demeanor from then to where it is now is night and day. I'm proud of him. So, you know, I have no, it's just a kind of a complete evolution in terms of personality, in terms of responsibility, staying out of Moreno Valley and moving away to Orange County and staying there, you know. So that's really been a turning point for me to work with. You know, working in law enforcement, there are certain things that I know and that I wouldn't tolerate, and I didn't then, and I wouldn't now. So at this point, as I said, he has my complete trust, and he's demonstrated the maturity that it takes, I think, to be whatever he does, whether it's pest control or whatever. I'm a pretty resourceful guy, so I can find means and ways to help young people do a lot of things. I just need this for him so I can retire. All right.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your really a lifetime of service for the Structural Pest Control Board and industry, as well as, you know, what you do in our community.
Yeah.
No questions.
All right, to my right.
So Final Exterminators, I just have a couple questions.
Yes.
That's the company that you'd want Caleb to go into, right?
Right.
And that operates in what county or what area?
Riverside, San Bernardino, LA, Orange County.
Right. And you're the only person in that company at the moment?
Yes.
So you service all those areas?
Basically, Riverside, Moreno Valley, San Bernardino, Orange County.
Okay.
Yeah. I do have plans to open up an area for him exclusively aside from Moreno Valley.
Okay.
So he won't be working in Mobile.
He will not be working in Moreno Valley?
No.
Okay. Right. No further questions?
No questions.
No questions.
All right, anything else you would like to add?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to come today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any further evidence that you want to present to the board?
No.
All right, then we're going to go ahead and begin with closing remarks. Ms. Lee, any closing remarks?
No, I mean, just if the board. Using the microphone, sorry. if the board is considering reinstating his license, the board should also consider as conditions precedent the outstanding cost recovery, as well as Mr. Goins Jacobs retaking the examination. It's been a while since he's done any CE or work related to the industry. The nature of the conviction, I think, is difficult. I think he's almost due to have those expunged if he can get those expunged. But he has also presented, on the other hand, significant mitigating evidence and family support and evidence of life changes. So I think I noted that at the time of these arrests, he was 19, 20, 21. So we'll submit.
All right, any closing remarks to the board?
No.
All right, is the matter submitted then for the board's consideration?
Yes.
Matter submitted, Ms. Lee?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, matter is submitted and the record is closed. We are off the record. All right, thank you. All right, so we're going to go ahead. I'm going to turn it over back to our president.
So we'll take a short break. Let's see, maybe reconvene at 10:11, 5 minutes or so. We're going to continue our meeting at 10:13. And at this point in time, I'll turn it back over to our administrative law judge to begin our second hearing.
All right, good morning, Mr. Lopez. I'm Marcy Larson, and in just a moment, we're going to go on the record. I know that you were sitting in the audience for the last hearing, so you know how that things will proceed, but I will explain once we go on the record how the hearing will proceed this morning, and then if you have any questions, you can ask me at that time, all right?
Perfect.
Yes. All right, as soon as our court reporter tells me he's ready, yes? All right, on the record. Good morning. We are on the record. It is August 26, 2024, in the matter of the petition for reinstatement filed by Emiliano Lopez. This matter is being heard before the Structural Pest Control Board, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California. This is OAH case number 2024-070428. Structural Pest Control Board case number 2004-36. Prior to going on the record, the board members identified themselves and there is a quorum present. As I mentioned off the record, my name is Marcy Larson. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings presiding over the matter this morning. We are here at the date, time, and location of the notice of hearing. Counsel for the People, if you would please state your appearance for the record.
Yes, good morning. Deputy Attorney General Stephanie Lee on behalf of the Attorney General's office.
And Mr. Lopez, you're representing yourself this morning?
Correct.
And you understand you could have had an attorney represent you at your own expense?
Yes.
And you're choosing to proceed on your own behalf?
Correct.
All right. As I mentioned, I know you were in the audience for the last hearing, but I will explain how the hearing will proceed. We're here this morning because you filed a petition for reinstatement of your license. And so you have the burden of proving to the board that your license should be reinstated. The way that the hearing will proceed is that Ms. Lee will present the board a brief overview of the history of the discipline of your license. She will then identify the exhibits. You have those in front of you. So once she's identified those exhibits, I will ask you if you have any objection to any of the documents that make up the exhibits. If you have an objection, just please tell me and I'll find out why. And then if there's no objection, I will have those admitted into evidence. After Ms. Lee has presented the exhibits, I will then swear you in. You can provide the board any testimony you want them to consider for purposes of issuing their decision. Again, the board obviously has the benefit of reviewing your petition package, but if there's anything in particular in there that you want to highlight for the board, this is your opportunity to do so. As I explained, focusing on rehabilitation you've undertaken since the discipline of your license. After you've provided your testimony, I will ask Ms. Lee if she has any questions for you. And then once she is done, I will ask the board members if they have questions for you. And then I make sure that you get the last word if there's anything that you want to add in addition to your testimony. During this proceeding, I cannot give any legal advice, but if anyone has any questions about the procedures, please let me know, and if I can answer the question, I will. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. And I'm going to have you move that microphone a little closer to you and just make sure you keep your voice up. It's on, yes? Correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, excellent. All right, Ms. Lee, if you would please give the board a brief overview of the history of discipline in this matter.
Yes, Your Honor. This is a petition for reinstatement of Mr. Lopez's Field Representative's License 32172. This was originally issued on April 18th, 2000 in Branch 2. The board filed an accusation case in January of 2004, case number 2004-36. There were 3 causes for discipline in this accusation. Number 1, a failure to provide proof of continuing education. He had failed to comply with the board's request for proof of continuing education completion certification of the 16 hours of CE that he had claimed on his 2002 renewal application. The second cause for discipline was a misrepresentation of material fact. This was also related to that same incident on the renewal application. And cause number 3 was fraud, again, related to the same incident. So we're talking about a single instance of continuing education, failure to provide proof, and misrepresentation on the renewal application. The disposition of that accusation case resulted in a default decision and order effective December 10th, 2004. The license was deemed revoked, and there is outstanding cost recovery in the amount of $2,372. Thank you.
All right, if you please address the exhibits.
Yes, Your Honor. So again, these are Bates stamped AGO, and I will refer to simply the page numbers after AGO 1. So AGO 1 is the board's letter regarding confirmation of the reinstatement hearing. AGO 3 is Mr. Lopez's confirmation request that was signed. AGO 6 through 8 was were the board's instructions relating to the reinstatement hearing. Starting on 9 through 10 is Mr. Lopez's petition for reinstatement. AGO 11 is his declaration in support of his petition for reinstatement. That's 11 and 12. 13 is his completed live scan service. Starting on page 15 is his mitigating documentation. Specifically, it's a certificate of completion from All-Star Training, and it is dated 10/3/2022. Starting on page 18 through 25 is the board's default decision and order. Starting on 26 through 41 is the underlying accusation. 26 through 42. And then AGO 45. This was a letter that was written on Mr. Lopez's behalf during the accusation case hearing. This is from. This is Mr. Lopez's own letter that was written on his own behalf for that accusation case. He submitted, at the time of that accusation case, he submitted certificates of completion starting on 47 and 50, which showed a total of, I believe, 6 hours of continuing education that he could show proof of in response to the board's request for proof. And then starting on page 53 is the board's memo regarding outstanding cost recovery for the $2,372. And then starting on page 55 are his certified license histories. So 56 is specifically the field representative's license that he is asking to have reinstated. This is FR 32172. And then also there are license histories on page 57 for his prior applicator's license, RA 20220. And then his applicator's license on page 58, RA 10857.
All right, Mr. Lopez, any objection to any of the documents that make up Exhibit 1?
No.
Exhibit 1 is admitted. All right, Ms. Lee, anything further?
No, thank you.
All right, Mr. Lopez, it's now your opportunity to testify. I'm going to swear you in. If you would please stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please have a seat.
Thank you.
And please state and spell your name.
My name's Emiliano Lopez. It's EMILIANO LOPEZ.
All right, Mr. Lopez, it's now your opportunity to provide the board members any testimony you want them to consider for purposes of issuing their decision.
Okay. Well, as they can read on my statement, at the time when I was employed, we used to have a chemist. You know, I worked for a big pest control company, which was Terminix Pest Control, and we had a chemist. He used to go ahead and provide us with our continuing education hours and everything. It was just like the darnest thing that I got my my continuing hours. Like, they used to keep it, and then they used to give us certificates. You know, like when we used to have to provide to you guys, they would send us our certificates, and then we would go ahead and mail them out. Like I said, unfortunately, on that time, the chemist had literally just retired. So they had boxes and boxes of of him giving all of us pest control, because it was like Southern California. So it was all of Southern California. Terminix employees used to go and used to get continuing education classes through him. So that's the only reason why I wasn't able to provide every single thing. These were just like given to my supervisor, which was John Cook at the time, and he only was able to give me the 8 hours. And I tried calling them when this happened, way back in 2000, to try to get it from the corporate office, or where we used to go and do the continuing education, but they never were able to help me out, or I was never even able to go there and dig up through the archives or whatever to try and get that. So that's the only reason why I did do the hours, but I wasn't able to prove that I had done those hours. Then after the fact, they told me that I was going to get my license suspended, when because I didn't even want to send it, and they told me, send it, go ahead and sign it, send it out, and we'll see, if you get I don't know, audited or whatever it's called. We'll try to go and see if somebody's already been replaced, the chemist or anything, and see if they can go and they can figure it out. Then I got a letter saying that I needed it to give the continuing education hours. I wasn't able to provide that. Nobody was able to help me there. So I quit there because I was like, I'm not going to, you guys are not trustworthy or whatever. I went to Anamite. While this was going on, I got to Anamite and I started working, and then eventually the pest control board sent them a notice of the infraction or whatever. That's why there's another license that you see here, because they told me that we're like, well, if they're going to cancel this license, go and just get an applicator license, because this is going to be like suspended or whatever for like a year. You're not going to be able to do pest control. So that's why there's another license in there that I went and I did get. And well, that's basically, everything kind of in a nutshell of what happened. And then afterwards, they lied to me about how much I was going to get paid there. I decided to go a different route and I started doing other stuff and I never went back because I knew I was going to get my license suspended. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to, I was young, at that time, and I just went ahead and I focused on doing other stuff, doing construction at the time. And that's why, I didn't pay attention to most of this stuff. And I'm sitting up here right now. So I'm, in a whole nutshell, that's kind of what's going on.
I'm going to ask Miss Lee if she has questions for you.
Of course.
All right, Miss Lee.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez, how old are you?
45.
What is your marital status?
Married.
Do you have any children?
Yes.
How many, and what is their age range?
2, 12, and 18.
And do you provide financial support for your children?
Yes.
Where do you currently live?
I live in Pacoima, California.
In the Valley?
Yes, San Fernando Valley.
And does your wife work?
No.
So what is your current employment? I'm not sure you mentioned that in your...
I'm a general contractor.
Do you have a general contractor's license with the Contractor State License Board?
Yes, I do.
How long have you been licensed?
7 years.
Do you own your own business?
Yes, I do.
What is the name of the business?
Joe and Bree Construction, Inc. BRI?
Okay, so I don't see your name in either of these. Who is Joe and who is Bree?
I named it after my girls.
Ah, okay.
Joanna is my wife. Brianna's my daughter. My son couldn't get in there because he wasn't born yet.
Got it. Have you had that business for the same amount of time that you've been licensed, 7 years?
Yes.
And what kind of work do you do?
I'm a general contractor. I do commercial and residential remodels, whatever.
Like, is there any specific type of remodel that you specialize in, or?
Apartment building turnarounds, like remodel apartments and office buildings, like doing tilt-ups, it's like installing like new offices and, stuff like that.
Okay. Do you have staff?
I do. I have 2 employees.
What are their jobs?
They're laborers.
So they're your work crew?
Yeah.
And are they paid on payroll, or?
No. Well, they're 1099.
But they work mostly for you?
Correct.
Okay. And have you ever been licensed on your Contractor State License Board license? Or sorry, have you been violated?
No, not at all.
Have you ever been issued any citations?
Nope.
Have you ever been investigated by the board? So that would be something that did not result in a citation or a discipline, but maybe like a consumer complaint?
No.
Okay. So you submitted the 2022 continuing education?
Correct.
Okay. And since 2022, have you had a chance to do any other CE related to this industry?
I could have. I just didn't know and wasn't aware of how many hours I need. I just wanted to prove to the board that I'm serious about getting back into the pest control business also. And really is just an avenue, because I want to, if I'm able to go ahead and get reinstated, what I eventually want to do is get my operator's license. You know, it's not really do the whole pest control. It's like open up a business in pest control and do that.
So you have not done any C since 2022?
No,
Would you be willing to take an examination for the license that you want to have reinstated?
of course.
And is there a reason why you want to open up a pest control business while you're currently, when you've got this construction business?
I mean, I just want to diversify myself a little bit. I don't want to be just put all my apples or whatever in just one thing. You know, like I have an acquaintance that has both. You know, he's a general contractor and he has pest control. You know, slash exterminating business. You know, so in case he needs to like exterminate or do any pest control, you can go ahead and do that. You know, like there's been ample times that people have asked me like if I know how to do certain. I'm like, yes, I do, but I can't do it because I'm not licensed for it.
So the plan is to keep your construction business,
Of course,
but also eventually open up your own pest control business.
correct.
And then before you get to that point, do you plan to use your license in any other capacity if the board were to reinstate your field rep's license?
I would. You know, I have a good friend of mine that has a pest control business. I've asked him if I was to get it, if I can go ahead and help him. He's like an up and coming. You know, he's just started out, but it's going good for him, and he's getting more and more clients and stuff. So as to possibly getting to work with him or to I would definitely use it.
Okay. And do you plan to either expand the leadership of your business, like have somebody else take over the construction business, or co-manage it with you if you open up a new pest control business?
I would co-manage it. You know, my wife helps me out, with some of the paperwork and stuff like that I need. So we would definitely like co-manage it.
Okay.
With both of them.
Okay. Do you have any criminal convictions that the board would not be aware of?
No, not at all.
And do you have any current criminal charges or criminal incidents pending that the board would not be aware of?
No.
So let's talk about your incident from 2004. So my understanding is that Terminix would provide these trainings and then keep on file for its employees.
Correct.
Sorry, I have to finish my question. Keep on file the certificates of completion.
Correct.
Okay. And would they also give the employee a copy of that same training once the training is finished?
No. Sometimes they would, sometimes they wouldn't. They would say that they would mail them out.
So sometimes they would, sometimes they wouldn't.
That's there's one in here that was a 2-hour. That one was given to me. The 6-hour one was the one that was delivered to our Peck Road. It's whatever 5407 Peck Road. But every time we would go ahead and finish it, there were so many people there that sometimes they would just mail it. They're like, go ahead and go to do your stuff, and then we'll go ahead and mail it to your branch.
Okay. So would you agree that ultimately it's because it's your CE requirement, it's your responsibility to make sure you have all of your proofs for the year?
Definitely.
Okay.
I take full responsibility. I'm just explaining what happened. But ultimately, yes, it is. It's my responsibility. It's not the responsibility. I mean, when you're younger, you don't understand a lot of stuff. But yes, it is. Obviously, it's my responsibility at the end to go ahead and even stay there and like, hey, give me my hours, But like I said, at that time, I was a 22, 23-year-old young man. I didn't know any better, So, like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and blame other people. It's my responsibility, and I'm just trying to go ahead and make it right and trying to get back into this field, and whatever I need to do, let's do it.
How did you know to report 16 hours for your renewal application if you didn't actually have all
I just read it.
Sorry, if you didn't actually have all of your proofs with you?
No, I just read. I read when I got all this paperwork. Is barely where I read that I needed 16 hours.
Right. So when you submitted your renewal application in 2002. So back then you got licensed in 2000, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you submitted your renewal application 2 years later in 2002.
Right.
Does that sound familiar? Okay.
Yeah,
And then the board charged their case in 2004. So my question is, back in 2002, when you were writing out your renewal application, you were signing under penalty of perjury that you had done the CE 16 hours. How did you know to report 16 hours if you didn't have the proof, the written proof?
Like I said, that's what they told me to just go ahead and sign. My managers at the time.
They told you to sign that on your renewal application.
Right.
Okay.
On my, continuing hours, it's just sign it, and we'll figure out a way to get you the rest of your hours from. I forget his, the chemist, the file, where the file room was at. I forget, what it was, the man's name. I mean, it's 20-something years ago.
And you're aware that when you sign any kind of application for the board, you have to personally be able to verify each and every statement on that application. Do you understand that?
No, yeah. I understand that now.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's see. The So if the board were to reinstate your license, would you be willing to pay the outstanding cost recovery that's associated with that 2004 board case?
The $2,372.
Yes.
What does that consist of?
So
you can't ask the attorney questions.
Well, no, I mean,
So
I'm representing my own self, so it's like if I'm my own attorney, right?
yeah, so I appreciate that's the case, but it's a default decision, and so that means that those costs have been ordered against you because you didn't file a notice of defense and you didn't show up for your hearing. So counsel can't tell you.
Well,
Sir, counsel can't tell you what they're for. They're the costs associated with the accusation that was filed against you. Do you understand that?
right, I understand that, but there's paperwork here that was never given to me. There's certified mail, there's certified everything. That was never handed to me. I never signed for any of this stuff. So there was no way of me knowing that I was supposed to have a hearing. I wasn't employed with these people anymore. So there was no way of them coming to me. There's a thing here that they went ahead and they served me at my residence. Nobody ever signed anything because it was an apartment number. So I mean, these are all things that have to be put into account. Is that I didn't have the paperwork in order. If I don't have the paperwork that says I have court this day, how am I supposed to be at court if these papers were certified and they weren't? Nobody signed them, so they obviously got returned back.
So there's a default decision that has not been appealed. It's a final decision against you. You can provide testimony to the board about information about you not receiving it, but as far as the costs associated that they're requesting, it's a final decision because it hasn't been appealed. And this attorney can't tell you what the costs are for. It's explained in there that they're costs associated with the accusation and the investigation that's associated with the filing of that accusation. And again, when I asked you if there's anything in addition you want to add to your testimony, you can explain the circumstances of that to the board. But I'm just explaining you can't ask this attorney questions. Do you understand?
Okay.
All right. Next question, Ms. Lee.
thank you. So my question is really just would you be willing to pay the costs that are associated with your old board case if ordered by the board?
It's a steep amount, but I guess if that's something that I'm gonna have to do, or maybe there's a yes.
Okay, that was a yes, and then I heard
Yes,
a whatever.
yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And then if the board were to reinstate your license and order any other terms, would you be willing to abide by those terms?
What type of terms?
So if they were to place your board license on probation, for example, would you be willing to go through probation?
Sure, no problem. I know I wouldn't have any problem with that.
Okay. Can I ask you about, there was one document in here, I don't know if I mentioned this in the, when I described the exhibit, but there was a letter that was written on your behalf. Okay, page AGO 36. There was a letter from somebody named Bennett Liss, BNNETT LISS. Do you remember that? Who is that person?
Bennett is a very good employee. I mean, my dad did construction work, and he was a client of his, and he went ahead and he wrote on my behalf.
Got it. And did you do work for Mr. Liss while you were licensed by this
No,
board?
I never did any pest control stuff or anything like that for him.
And this was a letter, it's dated February of 2004. So this was a letter that was submitted on your behalf after you had that accusation board case filed. Does that sound right?
I don't recall the exact date, but if that's what's on here, then yes, that would be. I mean,
Do you recall asking Mr. Liss to write a letter on your behalf because of the old board case?
you know what? Until I got this, I didn't remember that.
And then once you took a look at it recently, does that refresh your memory as to whether you asked Mr. Liss?
Vaguely. You know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I remember because it's vaguely. It's a long time ago.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to ask our board members if they have questions, starting to my left with our president.
Good morning, Mr. Lopez.
Good morning.
Thank you for your testimony and thank you for being here today. I just have one question. In terms of your continuing education, what are the steps perhaps that you've taken to make sure that you're going to be on top of that? So whether it be in your current business right now, any type of steps that you have to take to operate as a general contractor, or steps that you would take in the future that you can prove to the board, you know, I'm on top of any type of requirements that are being asked of me or will be asked of me?
Well, I mean, now I know what's going to be, you know, intel that what I have to provide. So I'll definitely be on top of everything, you know, like I'll make sure, I mean, I'm a model citizen. I don't, you know, anything that I have to do with my license, I keep it up, you know, like you can see in the Structural Pest Control Board, I have all my stuff, my certificates, and anything that I have to provide, I'll definitely be 100% on top of it. You know, like I said, this was a long time ago, you know, and I just want to move forward and see what I can, you know, see if I can accomplish, you know, my goals, you know, of what I want to do if I can get reinstated, you know. And like I said, it's you know, that's basically it. I'll stay on top of everything, you know. I don't have to get it told, you know, like how to do stuff or whatever. I mean, I'm a lot older now, so I'm more mature. I know, you know, if I need a certain amount of requirements within a certain amount of time, I'm going to be on it, you know, and make sure that all that is taken care of.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I have a question in continuation with the board member Yesenia's question. Is there a requirement for continuing education for maintaining the general contractor license?
you have to pay a fee, and you just have to make sure that like your paperwork's in order. Like obviously, paying your taxes, paying making sure that certain requirements are met. And making sure that you.
Let me rephrase the question. Is there a requirement for number of hours that are needed in continuing education to maintain your general contractor
No.
license?
No.
Okay.
No.
Have you carried any license since 2004 that required hours of continuing education?
No.
That you had to complete. Okay.
No.
Thank you.
All right, and to my right.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
All right, Ms. Lee, any additional questions?
No, thank you.
All right, Mr. Lopez, as I explained before, I would give you the last word. You were explaining before that you didn't receive a copy of the accusation. If there's anything else you want the board to know about that, you're free to provide that information now.
Well, yes, I was just gonna say, if you see in what was the page? EGO 041. These are. Again, I'm just reiterating that there was somebody that signed for something at Anamite at the time that I was. I never received any of these certified letters that would stated for me to go ahead and that I was going to have some sort of hearing or that I needed to show up somewhere. Otherwise, I would have gone. But like I said, I never. Like I said, right here, there's the one that's for AG 0042, the one that states that it was to my. This is where my physical address was, but it wasn't. It's in apartment 35, and obviously, whoever sent it out, I never was able to get it signed, or they were never able to get it signed, so I can go ahead and get these paperwork. That's the only thing that I never received any of the paperwork. That's all I'm saying. Is like if I have to pay that hefty fine, then it is what it is. I'm gonna have to do it. But I'm just saying, if you could take into consideration that I never really had the chance to see those papers, and that's all I'm saying. But whatever you folks decide that I need to do in order to get my license, I'll have to abide by it, and I'll go ahead and do it. That's all.
All right, Ms. Lee, any questions based on the additional testimony? All right, Ms. Lee, closing remarks?
No, we'll submit your anything.
All right, any further evidence or closing remarks?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Any
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, matter submitted for the board's consideration? Yes, matter submitted? Matter submitted, Ms. Lee?
Submitted your
All right, matter is submitted, and the record is closed. We are off the record.
Thank you.
I'm now
Thank you,
going
folks.
to turn it back to the board president.
Thank you.
Now pursuant to Government Code Section 1126, Subdivision C3, the board will meet in closed session for discussion and to take action on disciplinary matters, including the petitions. After the conclusion of closed session, the meeting will return to open session. Thank you. All right, welcome back, everybody. We'll return to open session. So we'll move on to agenda number 9, which is approval of meeting minutes. I'll open it up for discussion and any possible approval of the October 10, 2023 meeting minutes. So I'll ask the board for a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Perfect. Is there any public comments on this motion? Okay, great. It has been moved and second to approve the October 10, 2023 board meeting minutes. Sophia, can I ask for a roll call?
Yes. President Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Dr. Bindal,
Yes.
Board Member Paxson,
Yes.
Board Member Tingen,
Yes.
and Board Member Mendenhall.
Yes.
5-0 vote, motion carries.
Great, thank you. Moving on to agenda number 10, I will now ask the California Department of Pesticide Regulation, who is here to provide their update. And Nathan, I don't want to butcher your last name, so I will ask that you share with us the pronunciation, please.
So it's French. So if you said Desjardins, I would not be offended.
Oh.
But my family anglicized it, and we do Desjardins.
Okay.
So, all right. So yes, good morning, President Anderson and members of the Structural Pest Control Board. My name's Nathan Desjardins. I'm a senior environmental scientist with DPR's Enforcement Headquarters Branch, and I'm here to provide DPR's update to the board. So in a little over 2 weeks from now, staff from DPR's enforcement branches and the board will be conducting an in-person training for 85 County Agricultural Commissioner or CAC staff. CAC inspectors from 23 counties throughout California will attend the 3-day training from September 10th through 12th, 2024, down in Irvine and Orange County. DPR issued enforcement letter 24-09 on August 13th with detailed information for CAC staff on attending the training. We thank our industry volunteers, Matt Fabre and Doug Bell from Cardinal Products, as well as Quality Pest Services. 12 locations throughout California, DPR staff conducted in-person trainings for CAC staff on preparing notices of proposed action for pesticide use violations. The training covered both agricultural and structural pesticide administrative civil penalty development using adapted case scenarios and violations. Moving on to laws and regulations update, there are 5 things we wanted to provide the board updates on. First, difascinone. In December 2023, DPR issued enforcement letter 23-19 regarding the implementation of difascinone restrictions from Assembly Bill 1322. This letter provided guidance and clarification to CACs on the implementation of these changes, specifically the prohibition of most uses of difascinone within the state starting January 1, 2024. We appreciate the board including a link to the letter on your website to assist in disseminating this important information to your licensees. Second, the decontamination rulemaking. Earlier this year, DPR published a notice of decision not to proceed regarding the proposed pesticide decontamination sites changes. The notice said DPR will initiate a new regulatory action to adopt or amend regulations pertaining to the same or similar subject on a later date. Third, civil penalty fines. Effective July 1st, 2024, the CAC administrative civil penalty fine under FAC section 12999.5 increased. It is important for individuals and businesses working in the structural industry to be aware of this change. For more information, please refer to the rulemaking page on our website. Fourth, our licensing and certification fees. Individuals and businesses that also have DPR licenses should be aware that DPR has increased the fees for both licenses, for both businesses and individual licenses and certificates. The increases were effective on August 5th, 2024. Again, for more information, please see our website. And finally, under this part, neonicotinoids. In 2023, Assembly Bill 363 amended Food and Agricultural Code Section 12838. Under these changes, effective January 1st, 2025, neonicotinoid pesticide products containing 5 neonic AIs, when used for non-agricultural uses on outdoor trees, turf, or ornamental plants, can only be sold by licensed dealers and used by certified applicators. These requirements may affect some Branch 2 structural companies. We're continuing to work to develop guidance to CACs on implementing these changes. Sulfurofluoride, we also wanted to mention that the amended sulfurofluoride labels have been received by DPR, and DPR is currently working through the registration process, and they're currently under review. Before I close, there are 2 retirements of note in DPR's Enforcement Headquarters branch. First, after many years of state service, Regina Saraceno retired from DPR in December 2023. She managed DPR's statewide trainings, laws and regulation interpretive guidance, which is my job, and the product compliance unit. Leslie Talpansu filled the position in April, and Leslie has many years of experience at both DPR and the CAC levels. And second, after many years of dedicated service to the department, and before that working as a CAC inspector, Peggy Byerly retired from state service in May 2024. While I had met her previously, I got to work closely with her on structural and other issues after she transferred up to Sacramento in January 2018. I know she had a deep appreciation for the services the structural industry performs in California and worked tirelessly to ensure the annual structural regulatory training was a success. Her deep knowledge of our pesticide enforcement programs is missed. Beth Boss, who could not be here today, is currently filling in for Peggy. And we wish both Regina and Peggy well on their retirements.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Nathan? Thank you so much, and we appreciate DPR's collaboration and your leadership. Thank you. All right. At this point in time, I want to do a time check. Sophia, do we want to go ahead and break it now or head into 11A?
I'll leave that entirely up to the board members.
Okay.
I'm fine with either.
Do we want to go into?
Probably won't take any more than 10, 15 minutes. What do you think?
Whatever, or you decide to do your updates so like 12 and 13.
We can do that.
Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and do maybe perhaps 12 and 13, and then we can come back. So that way we keep it together. Yeah.
There we go. All right. So, agenda item 12. Let me go there. This is our legislative update. So there's only one bill this year that's impacting the Structural Pest Control Board, SB 1451, which introduces various changes to operations of programs governed by the Practice Acts in the Business and Professions Codes in the Department of Consumer Affairs. For the board, the bill replaces gendered language in the Structural Pest Control Act, and it eliminates the option for licensees to take the challenge examinations in lieu of completing continuing education requirements. So currently, our Business and Professions Code sections 8593 and 93.1 mandate the board to offer licensees the challenge exam in lieu of CEs, instead of actually taking the continuing education. In March, the federal EPA, US EPA, revised their rules for certification and recertification of applicators of restricted use pesticides, specifying that if recertification is based on written examination, the state must ensure the exam is adequately developed to demonstrate competencies required by federal law. So in the past, we didn't get very many requests for the CE challenge exam. The examination was created by in-house staff. And however, to be a defensible exam and a relative alternative to continuing education courses, we really need to contract out to develop that examination and administer the examination. And the cost of doing that is quite a bit for the number of requests that we receive. So it's been something that's been proposed for several years now, and it was picked up by Senator Ashby this year. And that concludes my update. Are there any questions? Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Sophia, do we want to move on to 13? Is that a lengthier? Update? Okay.
Let's move to 14, and we'll have the licensing update.
Perfect. So at this point in time, we'll move to Agenda 14, and I'll turn it over to Licensing Manager Melissa Zanetta to present.
Thank you. Hello, Board President and members members. Please see agenda item number 14 for the licensing update.
Please adjust the microphone.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so you will find the licensing and examination statistical report, which details the entire last fiscal year, 23-24, compared to the previous fiscal year, 22-23. And let me know if anybody has questions on that. Okay. If there are no questions, I'll move on to the licensing survey. Enclosed, you will find the results of our licensing unit satisfaction survey conducted from April 1st to June 30th, 2024, with 125 respondents. So definitely a lot more respondents now compared to when we were sending the postcards, so that's great. I'm pleased to report that 88.71% of respondents were satisfied with their experience, with many commending our staff for their helpfulness and professionalism. In contrast, 11.29% expressed dissatisfaction, citing areas of improvement such as processing times, phone support, and online services. This feedback has been invaluable as we continue to enhance our services. So for any industry members listening in today, please continue to submit your surveys to provide feedback as we continue to streamline our processes. This is very helpful. Does anybody have questions on the licensing survey? Okay. Connect implementation. On May 21st, 2024, we launched a new online licensing system, with the first release including applications for examination, re-examination, company registration, and branch office registrations. This is a major step towards faster and more accessible processes. Though the transition has come with some challenges and delays, we've been working diligently to address any issues as they arise, aiming for a more efficient, user-friendly system that will streamline all of our processes. This shift to online services is also part of a broader effort to reduce our paper usage as we move towards a more paperless operation altogether. In closing, while this transition has had its challenges, I'm confident that the improvements we're making will lead to better, more efficient services for everyone. And I do want to take a moment to thank the industry for their patience and support during this transition period. It's been really nice to work with the industry as we move along in this process. And so we're really looking forward to releasing what's to come. Does anybody have questions? Okay.
Nope.
And that is it for the licensing update.
Yes, thank you so
all.
much.
Thank
This is a
you.
huge effort, so really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
If you want to go ahead and take 15, we
Okay,
can.
we'll go ahead and move to agenda item 15. And we'll hear now from Enforcement Lead Holly Glassner to present.
Hi, board members.
Hi there,
President.
Good afternoon.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Let me introduce myself. I don't know that I've met all of you. Hi, Scott. I'm Holly Glassner, and I'm the lead enforcement analyst here at headquarters. I'm going to be going through agenda item 15 for you today. Specifically, I want to talk about some of the numbers that are on the agenda memorandum. We actually have some updates to those numbers, and I kind of wanted to give you an overview of our new processes in the enforcement unit. So during the 22-23 fiscal year, we worked with Sophia and the Department of Consumer Affairs to create new procedures not only for our citations and our fines, but also for our subsequent arrest reports. Anything that had come through from subsequent arrests were typically tracked on paper and then put into the system, our tracking system, if we were going to go after that person for that subsequent arrest. Same kind of situation with citations and fines. It was actually processed through a now defunct system called Butterfly, which did not connect to the DCA system and made it our yearly tracking really difficult. Quarterly, yearly tracking was really hard. So over that last fiscal year, starting for 23-24, we completely changed our system. So now all of that information is put into our tracking system. Makes it a lot easier to track. And that's why you're going to see some fluctuations when you look at the enforcement statistic report. You're going to see case closure numbers are going to go up, and then average times to close will drop, because a lot of things are being put into the system that are being opened and closed on the same day, so that we're tracking that workload, but it's just going to be a shorter amount of time. And then with that, I want to bring you directly to citations. Citation issued went up from 165 to 435, which was a 90% increase. That number is really deceiving, because what the system is doing, it's actually combining the citations and fines that were issued by the board and combining that with the citations that we process and track for all county ags within the state. Not all of them, but some of the county ags actually send their citations to us, and we process them and track them. So that number is actually a combined number of our citations that the board has issued and the agriculture for the year. So when I saw this, I went through and was able to run it and pull those out and separate the numbers. We went from 165 last fiscal year for board issued citations to 187. So that is an increase, but just not a 90% increase. And going forward, we know now to split those two identifiers out, and the numbers will be better, more correct. Any questions on all that? Or on these other numbers? No? We also, paperless enforcement, as of this fiscal year, the last months of last fiscal year, 23-24, the decision was made to go paperless in headquarters for desk investigations. Previously, all evidence was printed, copied, and kept in paper folders at our desks. And we decided to go ahead and switch that to everything being scanned within the system. And we created a shared drive that's just for enforcement. So the enforcement specialists in the field, us here in headquarters, and management will have access to it, and that's it. And not only is that going to help save paper and all of that, but it's been really nice training new people that have come on board, because we can all look in the same shared drive for all of our cases. And people like Sophia, if she needs to review anything, she just pulls up that G drive and everything's right there, rather than a paper being out and about somewhere. Oh, and it's also something we wanted to do to help gear up for Connect. So like with licensing, there's stuff going online to the Connect system. So we'll, enforcement, we're going to start with the complaint form and then kind of build on that. So kind of getting ready for all of that. And any questions on that?
Is there a timeline for that?
For the Connect for complaint form, not just yet. Okay. We just, I believe, just finalized the complaint form itself, and now it needs to be built. So I don't actually have a date for that yet.
Okay, no worries.
Enforcement survey. We also, as far as surveys, went from a card that was mailed out to consumers after a complaint was finished, went to an online survey. So they get an email from the enforcement unit and they can fill it out online. I am still waiting on the survey results for last fiscal year, but I did have Q2 responses. We had 7 responses, which, believe it or not, is actually pretty normal to have that few. 6 out of the 7 were very satisfied with the assistance they received from the enforcement unit. We had 86 positive and 14% negative. Basically, 1 out of the 7 were unhappy with us. And that is it. Unless you all have any other questions.
Any questions?
No?
All right. Thank you so much, Holly. All right. We'll go ahead and continue down the road here and move on to agenda number 16, outreach and communications update. And I'll turn it over to Administrative Analyst Christina Jackson Duran to present.
Good afternoon, board members.
Good afternoon.
I'm Christina Jackson Duran. I'm the Administrative Analyst for the Structural Pest Control Board in the Administration Unit. And today I'm here to present to you an update on the board's outreach and communication efforts. I'll start with the email communications. We've seen a decent increase in our listserv subscribers. From our last meeting, we have added 82 new subscribers, and we believe this growth is largely due to staff encouraging licensees and industry members to subscribe to the email list so they can receive updates as the board sends them out. Moving on to social media. In your board materials, we've included the account and content statistics reports for all social media platforms. I did just want to note that X, formerly known as Twitter, no longer provides detailed account statistics unless we subscribe a monthly premium to get that content statistics. So we don't have that information, but we do have the content statistics, which is included in your board materials. Additionally, following an inquiry from a prior board meeting regarding the use of paid promotions across all social media platforms, we have confirmed from DCA that we can move forward with that on certain platforms. It is permissible. And then moving on to our newsletter, Spin. I'm pleased to share with you all that the board's newsletter has been successfully relaunched. It was relaunched in February 2024. It's been 20 years since we've had a publication, so I'm extremely excited that we have this new communication tool for the industry to get information out there. And I would like to just thank all of our board staff who are part of our newsletter committee, because without them we couldn't have gotten this project done so quickly. And also we collaborated with DCA's publications in design and editing, and they've been able to actually create a web-based newsletter, so it's clickable, so any information we want, we can link out to the industry and people can have access to that information instantly. And also in your memo, I did detail a little bit of the 2 publications that we have sent out thus far. And then lastly, in your memo, we have a list of our speaking engagements since our last meeting that board staff have attended and presented at. And with that, if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to take those.
Yeah, I do have 2 questions. In relation to the paid promotions, is that something that we're considering as part of our budget and allocating budget to that?
I'll have Sophia answer that question.
Yes. However, we are looking at the governor has come out with, some direction, and all departments are having to cut costs. And unfortunately, that's probably an area that, there's a hold on doing that, moving forward with that right now. So possibly next fiscal year, we'll see how things are.
Okay, that sounds
so
great.
we're going with the free socials right now.
And then secondly, in terms of our newsletter, do we plan on doing any, or first of all, have you gotten any feedback in terms of the content that we provide? And do we plan to do any type of survey in terms of like what's resonating? Are we including the right type of mix in terms of the content we're providing?
Feedback we have received has been very positive and very almost thankful from the industry that we do have this information. We do have an email specific to the newsletter if people are interested in either providing suggestions for content. We do include that in the newsletter so they can send those inquiries over to us and we can move forward with that. But as far as building the content in the newsletter, it's pretty much staff. We try to make it relevant to the time that it's going out. So our last publication was spring, and that was heavily focused on renewals. And then our plan for next one will likely be Connect as we move forward with Connect and the rollout of that. So
that's great. Thank you.
You're
Does
welcome.
anybody else have any questions?
No.
No? Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. All right. At this point in time, I'm going to revisit agenda item number 11. Sophia, do we want to move forward with 11A for the time being, and then perhaps we take a break thereafter?
Sure. Okay. So at the October 22 meeting, the board approved regulatory changes pertaining to pesticide application notice requirements. And we went through the rulemaking process for this package, and on March 11th, a final rulemaking file was submitted to OAL, Office of Administrative Law, for review and approval. However, it was subsequently withdrawn due to one comment that was received that the public, a comment received from the public, that needs to be considered by the board. So currently, California Code of Regulations 1974.4B, subsection B, provides that any death or serious injury related to pesticide application or use be reported immediately to the nearest Structural Pest Control Board office. This, let's see, the new proposed language, we've moved that to the new section 1970.43, and it requires that death or serious injury be reported immediately to the Structural Pest Control Board's office, doing away with the term nearest because we only have one office. Additionally, the proposal adds a requirement that any death or serious injury be reported to the County Agricultural Commissioner's office in the county where the application took place. This requirement is added because the County Ag Commissioners conduct local enforcement in coordination with the board. The comment that we received was to include in this new proposal a mandate to inform the prime contractor of any death or serious injury, where relevant. The suggested change is not related to the proposed change. The purpose of the provision was to ensure that applicable enforcement agencies are notified of these events to ensure coordination of investigation and enforcement of laws and regulations, which are designed to protect the public. So such a requirement is unnecessary, since part of that investigation would require us to notify the prime contractor anyway. In addition, the recommendation is more specific to an internal operational protocol within a licensee's company. So board staff recommends that the board reject this comment, and there are suggested motions on the memorandum.
Before we move to a motion, as Sophia noted, you'll note there on actions requested the recommended option by staff. And so at this point in time, I'm going to ask the board for a motion on agenda item 11A.
I would move to approve the staff's recommendation to reject the comment.
Could you read the motion as indicated on the memo? Or I
I would move to direct staff to proceed as recommended to reject the comments as specified and provide the responses to the comments as indicated in the memorandum. Thank you, Sabina.
Do I have do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
And are there any public comments for this motion? Seeing none, it has been moved and seconded. Sophia, can you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Yes. President Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Dr. Bindall.
Yes.
Board Member Paxson.
Yes.
Board Member Tingen.
Yes.
And Board Member Mendenhall.
Yes.
5-0 vote, motion carries.
Thank you. All right, at this point in time, I think we'll move ahead and take a lunch break. So we will look to reconvene at, let's say, 1 o'clock. All right, thank you. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to start off and revisiting or moving on to agenda number 13, which is the Executive Officer's Report. So at this point in time, I'll turn it over to our Executive Officer, Sophia, to present.
13A. 13A is the budget update, and we have the Department of...
got it. Okay,
That's
yes, sorry, that was my mistake. So we'll actually turn it over to the Department of Consumer Affairs. Their budget office is here to present. Hi there, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Luke Fitzgerald, and I'm a budget analyst with the DCA Budget Office. I'd like to thank the board and executive staff for allowing me a few minutes to present on agenda item 13A, the board's expenditure projections and fund condition statement. The first page we're going to go over is going to be the board's expenditures. These projections are based on actual data through fiscal month 12. The report includes 2022 through 23 actual expenditures in green and 23-24 budgeted and projected expenditures in blue and orange. Over this 2-year period, costs are relatively higher. As we move to the end of the document, you'll see the board had a beginning base budget of approximately $7.23 million and is projected to spend approximately $5.98 million, creating a reversion to the board's fund of $1.25 million. The next document I'm going to go over is the board's revenue projections. This report includes receipts which are collected through June, and we're actually going to go in further into these projections as we transition to the next slide. The last slide of your materials is going to be the board's fund condition statement, and as a reminder, we read this document from top to bottom and left to right. The left column is the board's prior year 2022 through 2023 actuals. It shows the board began 22-23 with a beginning balance of over $3.6 million. They collected roughly $5.5 million in revenues, with $665,000 from initial license fees, $223,000 from license renewals, $4.63 million from the issuance of citations, fines, delinquent fees, and other revenue. The board expended $5.9 million, which includes $468,000 in direct draws to the fund for statewide pro rata and pension payments. The board ended 2022 through 23 with $3.2 million in reserve balance, or about 5.9 months in reserve. For the current year, the board projected revenues of just over $5.5 million, with over $679,000 projected from initial license fees, $250,000 from renewal fees, and a little over $4.6 million from the issuance of citations, fines, delinquent fees, and other revenue. The board's 23-24 expenditures based on the governor's budget with FM12 projections is just over $6.5 million between authorized expenditures and direct draws to the fund leaving the board, with a fund balance of $2.2 million or 3.6 months in reserve. The budget office will continue to monitor the board's revenue and expenditures and report back to the board with monthly expenditure projections as we continue to close fiscal months in the current fiscal year. And then just a few things to note on the board's fund condition. The fund condition is a snapshot in time. One of the main factors driving expenditure increases in future years is a result of personal service adjustments. These include general salary increases as well as employee compensation and retirement rate adjustments. The Budget Office includes a conservative ongoing 3% increase to expenditures on the fund condition statement to account for these ongoing incremental adjustments. You'll also notice revenue is projected higher in the outer years. Lastly, I'd like to note to the board that any future legislation or unanticipated events could result in the board's need for additional resources, which would create cost pressure on the fund. The Budget Office will continue to monitor the board fund condition statement and keep the line of communication with the executive staff open for any future needs or expectations. Again, thank you for allowing me to present at today's meeting, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you have. All right, thank you.
Okay, at this point in time, we're going to revisit agenda item 11 and move on to agenda item 11D, and I'll turn it over to Sophia.
$11D is review, discussion, and possible action to initiate the rulemaking process to adopt or amend regulations on a fee increase. And I'm going to actually hand it over to Matt Nishimini with the Budget Office, who's going to present our fee increase package.
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Nishimini. I'm with the DCA Budget Office, and I'm here with my colleague Sam Dyer. So we provided a separate handout today. It should be in your packet. If you don't have an updated one, I can provide you with one. But the first page is the same fund condition statement that you just looked at. And what you'll notice that towards the bottom, you have this in color, it's color barred, and it has months in reserve. And this is kind of a good snapshot for you to follow on how much money, cash money, you actually have in your fund. And you'll see that this months in reserve is declining. We have it color-coded blue, which is above 3 months, and then pink, which is less than 3 months but over 0, and then we have it going into the negative. And so the board, and we thank you board members for your fiduciary responsibility to keep this board solvent. So some action is going to have to be taken. On the second page, we have this little chart here with the various fee types that are being proposed to be increased. On the left, we have the fee type. So we've got the 3 different categories for the applicator, the field rep, and the operator for the exam, the original license, and renewal license, as well as the WDO fee. In the second column, that's the current fee level. So, for example, the WDO fee is currently at $4. The proposed fee is next to that is $5. And then we're showing the incremental fee increase. And then on the far right, we're showing what the statutory limit for that fee type is. So in all cases, the proposal is to increase to the statutory caps, with the exception of the original license for the applicator and the renewal, which were highlighted in the blue. Those will be increased to $35, but below the $50 statutory cap. And then on the last page, we have another fund condition statement, but then we have these 3 highlights in the green, and that's going to show the incremental revenue that you're going to generate from this proposal. So it's going to bring in about 1.56 in additional revenue per year. And then if you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see that you're no longer in the red, but you're in the pink. So I think the natural question would be, well, why don't we increase our fees more, or to get it out of the pink and into the blue, right? So again, we are increasing most all the fees to the statutory cap. The primary revenue generator is the WDO fee, right? As you know, it brings in over 80% of your revenues. As a policy decision, in speaking to your executive officer, she was reluctant to increase the applicator fee to the statutory cap because it's the entry-level position for your profession, And then also, it's being increased significantly from $10 to $35, and she thought that increasing it all the way to the statutory cap above that of the field rep as a policy decision might not be wise either. And also, the revenues derived from that additional $15 is really insignificant. So that said, this proposal will maintain solvency. And I remind you that this board will be going through the sunset review process in the 27-28 fiscal year, at which time you could propose legislation seeking an author to increase your statutory caps. I would think primarily that WDO would be the target, to increase it to 6 or 8 or whatever have you. I would suggest that in the coming years, the board undertake a fee study to examine what the fee should be pegged at and do that analysis, and then seek proposed legislation to right size your fee structure and your fee levels with the resources needed to spending at that time. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? How much time would be, oh, excuse me. How much time would be needed if we were to commission that fee analysis? Like when would be the recommended time to begin if we were looking at proposing any type of legislative changes?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Very good question. So it typically takes about 6 months.
Oh, okay.
So there are two options for the board. The board could contract with a third-party fee contractor to do that, or if the professional associations are willing and your stakeholders are willing, the board could actually undertake their own. A fee study of this magnitude for the board would probably cost $30,000, $40,000, so that's something to consider. But other boards and bureaus within the DCA who've had stakeholders who say it's okay for the board to undertake those, they've allowed them to do them, and the legislature has received those equally as well. And the finished product, I would say, are the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So I just want to add also that the handout that was put into, the stapled handout put into with my memo on top, attached to that after the budget office attachments, there's actually the proposed text involved with this regulatory fee increase. And you'll notice a part of that are our last license application forms. We needed to make changes to those forms because they are in our regulations when doing this fee increase. So we also incorporated, it looks like a lot of changes with strike through and underline. There is a lot of formatting changes, changing the order of certain questions, renumbering. But we also incorporated some recent legislation like skill bridge, military expedited licensure, things that we were required to ask on our application forms, and the rulemaking process just had not been done yet. So we thought we would capture that in this package as well. So the motion, the recommended motion is on the memo if you choose to.
I wanted to raise a point, and I might have missed this, but we're not doing an analysis to look into increasing the fees above, increasing the statutory minimums, or is that?
So the statutory fee increase would come during sunset, would be requested during sunset. This is a regulatory change to increase our fees to the statutory maximum.
And when is the next sunset?
28.
Review? 28, which should be after these projections. A couple. So does it have to be during the sunset review, or can it be done separately?
So to the extent the board needs additional revenues, the board can seek legislation prior to that. But the natural vehicle is during sunset.
Okay. I just, and I, Sophie and I talked about this. Some of this is, you always end up running a surplus every year. So some of this is a little bit, it's just projections. But the way I look at it is if you're at the statutory maximum, and even with that, you show that your reserve continues to drop and your months in reserve continues to drop, and knowing how the legislative process can work at times, waiting until 28 may be problematic. And so I would just suggest, I'm not going to, just suggest that maybe the staff and the budget folks should look at speeding that particular part up.
Yep, we would have no objection to doing that. It's the board's purview to decide what level of comfort you want as far as your months in reserve. You have a statutory cap of 24 months, so you're at the very lower end of that statutory authority. But if you want to seek legislation, that is certainly the purview of you board members.
What would that process look like if we were to move forward in seeking legislation prior to sunset?
So I would think that we would probably not do anything for this. So this legislative term is coming to a close.
Yeah.
And we would think that for the next legislative session, which begins in January, we're a little bit late for that. However, we can start discussions with your executive officer to start doing a fee analyses, and that would be the start of it. And then based upon that, your executive officer would work with DCA's Legislative Affairs Unit to seek an author for that. And that is, does happen. It's just the natural vehicle is really sunset, but you're not precluded from seeking outside legislation for these types of increases, particularly when you need them.
Okay. So do we want to move forward in voting on or making a motion on agenda item 11D on just what is being asked in terms of
let's take it,
the first one, and then we can discuss the second portion, which would be that legislative.
I'm not going to move this one because I don't want to read the entire paragraph, which Sabina will make me do.
I will. All right. Do I have a motion?
Do you want me to read it for you?
I move approval and ask that the council read the motion.
Okay. So the recommended motion is approve the proposed regulatory text and changes to 16 CCR sections 1936, 1936.2, 1948, and 1997 as provided in attachment C, and direct staff to submit all approved text to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business and Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review. If no adverse comments are received, authorize the executive officer to take all necessary steps to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for a hearing if requested. If no adverse comments are received during the 45-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all necessary steps to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at 16 CCR sections 1936, 1936.2, 1948, and 1997 as noticed with an effective on filing date.
And I move to approve that.
Beautiful. You'll do others in the future as well. Do I have a second? Second. All right. Do I have any public comments? We have one in the back.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Darren Van Steenwyk, here representing the Pest Control Operations California. The fees that are proposed are significant, and this is not the only board that is proposing significant increases as well. The fees, actually, the overall cost of business of doing business in this state is getting to the point where it's going to be going to become cost prohibitive, and some of those fees, may seem small, but when you start, multiplying them times tens or hundreds or even thousands of employees, those numbers get very, very high, very, very quickly. And so this is the first time that maybe to my fault, this is the first time I've seen this. So it's a little disconcerting that it feels like we're moving forward so quickly that the association and industry has not had a chance to really take a look at this. And so I just a few questions that I have, and I don't know if it's for council or for who, but it's what's the time frame at which what the next steps are, so that way the association can formalize their opinions and their responses to the steps of this package.
As for time frame, and regulations can take a long time.
Yes, I know that.
I don't know how close the package is ready, but the Regulations Council is here, and she might be able to answer that question if she'd like to come up and let us know the status of the package and when they are looking to submit to OAL. And of course, you have the 45-day after, that too.
I'm Dow Choi.
No, I believe it should be on.
Oh, okay,
It's on.
I'm
It's
Dow
on,
Choi,
yes.
Regulatory Council. The package has already gone through what we call a second level review. So the text is the text that we would present to OAL, and then so it would be on the board, the executive officer, when they decide to submit it to OAL.
I think the target is July 2025.
Target of what?
Of the fee increase.
Of implementation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, that may not happen because we know, different things happen during, the regulatory process. The norm is about a year, but that's from beginning, which we started already a few months ago on this. So that was what we were hoping, but obviously it could be later.
Okay. Excuse me.
Well, it's you have a year from when you submit it to OAL, so then
to finalize, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then it may be longer than a year from now.
Right.
So the package theoretically, it sounds like you're going to approve it today, to move forward, and
With
then
just
and then
publication.
Okay.
And then it goes for a comment period.
Okay.
And that's when.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because it's a lot, and people and the industry members that are already having a hard time putting food on their table, for some of those, that's going to be hundreds or thousands of dollars out of their pocket immediately, and that is something that I think that this board should consider, because it's something that that we want to make sure that everybody is in compliance with all laws and regulations. And as fees go up, like I said, at the county level, at the state level, at the city level, what it does essentially is that it forces people to start cutting corners, and that's exactly what you as a board don't want to happen. And as an industry member, I don't want that to happen either, and that is something that I just ask that you all take into consideration. Industry members, think about the people that you're going to have to go back to, and say, yes, we are. I am willing to pay this, but my neighbor I'm going to make you pay this, and that is something that I ask that you all consider. Thank you.
So I'm sorry. Can I ask you a question? Because I'm not in the industry.
Yes.
Is it the general practice that the employers pay these fees for their employees?
Yes.
So that's the general practice.
There's actually I do not know of a company where the individual employee pays those fees. It's the employer, mostly because the employees can't afford it. And so if we made the employees pay that, then they wouldn't, because the margins for our industry is actually very, very small, like low single percentages.
Okay.
Small.
Thank you. I just wanted to understand who actually pays, whose pocket it comes out of. So
It's the people that are already paying Social Security and insurance and all of that.
Any other questions?
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Darryl.
All right, Sophia, if you could move for a roll call vote. Oh, any more public comments? No. Okay.
Okay.
Sophia?
President Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Bindal, Board Member Paxson,
Yes.
Board Member Tingen,
Yes.
and Board Member Mendenhall.
Can I abstain?
We have a 4-0 vote and 1 abstain, so motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mark, did we want to revisit the?
I just want to throw out some possibilities, and Sabina can tell me if these are acceptable or not. One option is that we as a board just direct staff to look into the fee analysis and do the fee analysis. Another option is to ask staff to agendize it for the next meeting so we can discuss it and take more formal action. Or the third option, and maybe this isn't appropriate because it really isn't on the agenda, but I was going to say if the executive the executive director is okay with recommending one way or another now, then we could just accept that. But that's not really, again, on the agenda. So
Right, right. So what we could do is staff could look into a fee study, kind of bring back, this is how much it's actually going to cost, and this is how long it's going to take. They can bring back that information next time in one of her executive officer updates, so that you can all look and find out, oh, it's going to take 2 years to complete. We better get going now, or it's going to take 8 months. So you can kind of gauge when maybe the board should be conducting that fee analysis, because of course, after that's done, that's not your last stop, right? Because then you have your legislation and with the budget's office help and all of that too.
and also, these are just resetting the statutory maximums, so any future fee
Right.
increases are even farther
Correct.
out there.
Right,
So,
because then the regs would have to be updated to reflect anything like that. That would just be increasing the ceiling
yeah.
statutorily. It wouldn't actually be increasing the fees at that
Right.
time.
So I'd ask that staff, that we agendize this for the soonest available meeting, and that you provide us with the information regarding the costs and the timing and staff's recommendation as to whether or not we should do it now.
I will do that.
Can I also ask, in terms of what we heard here today, in terms of the industry's concerns as well, with our motion, we are providing your authority to move forward in this, and I know that there will be a portion, or there'll be a time where public comment will become available on that. But is there anything that we should be doing as a board to hear more of those concerns prior to? Is there, I know we have a number of different platforms and channels now available to us. And again, we're starting the process right now, but I think it's important that we continue to hear some of those concerns and how, if this does become a increase, how do we best mitigate and support as well?
I can actually look into holding some sort of, even if it's virtual to get more attendees, a town hall with the industry.
Okay. Yeah. I
to
think
get
that would be
feedback,
great.
to get some ideas, some recommendations.
I think that would be great. I think especially from an awareness standpoint, if there isn't awareness just yet. Sorry, board.
I was just going to say, and also all the social media channels that you're now using, don't just put the notice up on your website. Put things on your social media channels about these regulations are coming and they're going to affect you, and
Definitely.
that way, that will broadcast it a little bit more broadly than regulations usually get broadcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Sophia, do we want to go back to agenda item 13 or move towards through we have 2 more on 11, I believe. 11B
We
and
have
11C.
11B.
Yes.
Yes, we do. 11B and C.
Okay.
So I can cover those items.
Okay. We'll move on to agenda item 11B.
Okay, so 11B, this is the same language that was presented earlier on 11A. It's the pesticide application notice requirements. And let's see. We have some non-substantive changes to this language. And as you can see on attachment A, I've highlighted what those changes are. We wanted to bring it back to the board for one last vote before I resubmit this package. This was the package that was withdrawn because of the public comment, but I thought to be on the safe side, and my regulatory attorney has also recommended let's just get another vote on the language, even though they are non-substantive changes. Just to really quick tell you what changes were made since the language was first proposed. Changed the word primary to prime. That's what's consistent throughout our Business and Professions Code as well as our CCRs. We also initially proposed the log that we're incorporated, the tenant fumigation notice and pesticide disclosure that we are incorporating by reference was originally the occupant's fumigation notice and pesticide disclosure. We're going back to occupants rather than tenant. The revision date, very minor, just spelled out the entire year. Changed words from shall to must. And on 1970.43, what we talked about earlier, that wording was changed slightly to clarify responsibility, specify timing, and improve readability. And that's pretty much sums up the changes that were made. So I'm just asking, there's a recommended motion there that you approve these changes so that I can resubmit to the Office of Administrative Law.
Okay, great. Do I have a motion to approve the changes? Sabina will do the grading. Just kidding.
Would you like to hear
That's
a
it.
proposed motion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We're on 11B, right? Okay. The proposed motion would be to move for the board to approve the proposed regulatory text for section 1970.4, 1970.41, 1970.42, and 1970.43 as presented in attachment A. Direct staff to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking process, including the filing of the final rulemaking package with the Office of Administrative Law. Authorize the executive officer to make any additional non-substantive changes to the proposed regulations before completing the rulemaking process, and adopt the proposed amendments to section 1970.4 and the proposed adoptions at sections 1970.41, 1970.42, and 1970.43 with the non-substantive amendments discussed and approved at this meeting.
A motion?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It has been moved and second. Sophia, can you conduct a roll call vote? Oh, do we have any public comments? All right, Sophia, can you conduct a roll call vote?
President Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Bindal. Board Member Paxson.
Yes.
Board Member Tingen.
Yes.
And Board Member Mendenhall.
Yes.
5-0 vote, motion carries.
All right. Sophia, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 11C.
Okay. So before I jump into 11C, I first want to mention that last week the Office of Administrative Law approved our fumigation and pesticide use standards and record requirements package. And it takes effect October 1st. This rulemaking was proposed as a result of the U.S. EPA changes in 2017. This was our first step, first package that went forward. This was going to be a two-part thing. So 11C is actually the second part of meeting the federal EPA requirements. This is the examinations rulemaking, and it's being presented to you today as the second part of implementing US EPA standards. The language is included in your packets. Specifically, the federal rules require that the federal minimum core standards be cited in state laws or regulations. I'd like to point out that while our licensees already meet these standards, we need to formally include them into our regulations to comply with federal requirements. So it only made sense to add these standards to the board's examination section of our regulations. However, we don't currently have an examination section. I worked closely with DCA Regulations Unit to draft the necessary regulatory language, which outlines our examination standards and application process. There is a recommended motion included on agenda item 11C in your materials. Are there any questions about it first, or?
Okay. I'll go ahead and move to approve the proposed regulatory text and changes to sections 1940, 1940.1, 1941, and 1942 as provided in the materials, and direct staff to submit all approved texts to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business, Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review. If no adverse comments are received, authorize the executive order officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any technical or non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for hearing if requested. If no adverse comments are received during the 45-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at sections 1940, 1940.1, 1941, and 1942 as noticed. Do I have a second? Do we have any public comments? Right. It has been moved and seconded. Sophia, could you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Yes. President Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Bindal? Yes. Board Member Paxson?
Yes.
Board Member Tangen?
Yes.
And Board Member Mendenhall?
Yes.
5-0 vote, motion carries.
Before you move on, can I just make a comment?
Yes.
Yes, Annie? I just want to acknowledge Sophia and the staff for providing more detail, summary of what we're doing on these items and rationale. I know it's more effort, but I appreciate it, and I think it really helps the board to understand what's going on when we act on these. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to, or back over to, we're just jumping around.
I know.
Agenda item 13. So Sophia, I believe your EO officers or your report has not been completed, so I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. So, let's see. My notes. Budget update was already provided. 11B is our 2023-2028 strategic plan update. So in your board member materials, board packet materials, excuse me, attachment A is our strategic plan status report. It's actually after the budget update that came in later, but it's there. It provides each goal area and the status of each related objective. Since the last meeting, we have increased our progress by an average of 30%. The table that's embedded on the memo is a snapshot of our progress over the last 2 meetings to now. Given that this plan extends to 2028, I just want to, I know I said this at the last meeting, but I'm really proud of the staff and everything that they have accomplished. I could not have done this, without the staff. It's really all them. So we are where we are with all of these goal areas because of the staff. So thank you. And are there any questions on strategic plan update? No. Okay. So I'll move on to C, Research Advisory Panel. So in accordance with BMP Code Section 8674, subsection T3, the board is required to establish a 5-member research advisory panel to establish criteria that research proposals must meet, consider topics for soliciting requests for proposals for research, evaluate and score research proposals received, and recommend research proposals to the board. Our board president, Anderson, approved a research advisory panel, and staff is currently working on scheduling the first meeting. And I think we actually have a date on that, and it's going to be September 23rd. And I will have an update, I hope, at the October meeting, but I provide my monthly updates to the board members as well. So you'll see that something in there as well. Any questions on research advisory panel? Okay. D is the technical advisory committee update. So at our last meeting, the members of the board approved establishing a technical advisory committee to research the termite bait stations or termite monitoring devices and the potential conflicts or concerns for proper enforcement. This committee will solicit stakeholder input, deliver a recommendation to the board at a future meeting on how to best resolve. So Board President Anderson approved the Technical Advisory Committee, and we have our first meeting scheduled for September 26th. And are there any questions regarding the Technical Advisory Committee? I should have an update for you all shortly thereafter. And that concludes my EO report.
Thank you very much, Sophia. All right, I believe that puts us to agenda item 17. All right, are there any other agenda items that we would like to see in our future agenda? And as a reminder, we're going to be meeting in October, mid-October. Okay. Does the public have any recommendations for agenda items at a future date? All right. Well, with that, I did neglect to introduce our newest board member, Scott Mendenhall. So thank you, Scott, for joining us, and we're really excited to have you on board. And thank you all for a very productive and effective meeting today. Unless there's any other items I'm missing, I'll call for an adjournment.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.